Hello everyone, I am Rod and I am the game design instructor for the Academy of Entertainment Arts over at Dixie Hollins High School. If you are one of my students, it's Mr. Flowers to you, and welcome to this video tutorial. Alright, and we are back. In the last video we went ahead and animated our curtain and our door, and if we hit the playback, we should be able to see that going. Bam. The curtain opens, door opens, and now we're ready to have Eggy do something. So first things first, I want to get Eggy into position, and then we can kind of go from there. So I'm going to grab Eggy. And remember in the last video, we talked about Eggy's current position, because we want him to be on the stool by the end of the animation. So his position on the stool is going to be 61, 72, based on my numbers. Your numbers might be different because your egg might be a different size, your stool might be higher or lower than mine. But I went ahead and wrote mine down. I suggest that you write your current value for Eggy down. That way you don't have to guess where it's at. But these are the values for my egg. Okay. Now what a lot of amateur animators end up doing is they'll put Eggy kind of back at the starting position. So we're going to put him back here. And then what they usually end up doing is they'll say, okay, well he's here. Now what I want to do is I want to set a keyframe and then have him up in the air, and then set a keyframe, have him on the ground, set a keyframe up in the air, set a keyframe on the ground, set a keyframe in the air, set a keyframe on the stool. And while that does work, it's not the best method for animation, and the reason for that is it doesn't carry the momentum, the forward momentum that's driving our character very accurately, because we'll have this staggered stop, start kind of thing, and it's not going to look very pretty. And I'm going to show you what that looks like, but it's not the best course of action. So I'm going to go back to here, and just real quick, I'm going to whoops. Just real quick, I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to do some very bad animation, and don't follow this. Just kind of see what I'm doing. Let's say I key it, and then I'm going to come forward on the time, about there, and then I'm going to have Eggy I'm going to have Eggy jump, and then I'm going to have Eggy come down. I'm going to go a few frames, have Eggy come down some, and then I'm going to go a few frames and have Eggy go up some, and then I'm going to go a few frames and have Eggy come back down. And I go to the end, or right about there, have Eggy up, and then all the way to the end, Eggy down. And if we were to hit play, it does do a thing, but it's kind of wonky. You can kind of see it's weird. He does this weird hovering thing way over here, and just his forward momentum doesn't work. It doesn't carry the weight of him through the animation, and that's not that great. So hopefully you didn't follow that, you just watched. But I'm going to go ahead and Control Z and get rid of all that. Dink, 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 dink. Okay. And I'm going to show you the best way to kind of start doing this. And first things first, let me get Eggy on my starting position. So for me, I've already predetermined where I want Eggy to be. I know that I want him to be about minus 235, and I want him to be about 24 units on the ground. That way his little butt is on the ground. He's not, it does make him sink into the ground a little bit. We're not going to really see that. Later we're going to do kind of a squash and squish animation with him anyway. But for now, we're going to put that about there. And then one other thing I think I want to do before we really get going is I want the our little widget here to be a little bit lower inside his body, because when we do the squishing animation, it's going to be easier to control that if it's near the floor. So let me hit the insert key, Boop. And I'm just going to go ahead and move this down to about there. I'm going to go in a side view to help me see where I'm putting that. So I've already sunk Eggy kind of into the floor, but I'm going to snap this to the grid space right there. And now all I did is I held X and then drug the arrow down. Okay, so it's okay that Eggy's butt's in a little bit in the floor. But this will work the same way that our curtain did. If I were to scale him up or down, he'll scale in the direction of his pivot point. All right. So now that I have him in position, I have my pivot point set up, I'm ready to set my first key. So we know that Eggy doesn't really do anything until the door is open. So the door doesn't even open until frame 88. So we're going to leave Eggy sitting right here, and then at frame 88 is when the door is all the way open. So right there is when the door is open. So we will see Eggy at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and come over to my translation Z. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say key selected here. Because Eggy doesn't do anything back here, so I don't even need to animate his 0 position here. Nothing's going to happen until this frame. So right here is going to be his starting frame. And then we're going to have him move forward. So in the time, if we look at our timeline, it takes this as the door opens and there is a 1.5 second delay before Eggy starts doing his jumping thing. And then if we go over here, we have the jumping thing occur, and it takes a few seconds to kind of get him to the end of the run. So let's go back into Maya. And at this point, I'm going to say the door kicks open. It takes about a second for Eggy to get to the opening of the door. So what I'm going to do is first, just to carry the momentum all the way through, I know that Eggy is going to be stopped right about here. And I know that all the way at the end of the animation, Eggy is going to be here. So let's go ahead and set that up. So at frame 88, Eggy's here. At the last frame, Eggy is going to be at the stool. So what I'm going to do, from frame 88, we're going to get him to move. About 1 second's going to happen, and he's going to get into the frame of the door before he starts doing his jumping thing. So 1 second's going to pass from frame 88. Okay? So let's go ahead and grab our trusty calculator. So frame 88, and then we want 24 frames to pass. So plus 24 will put us at 112. So between frame 88 and frame 112, Eggy is going to move to about here. He's going to cross, he's going to pass, can't quite see it because of our light, but he's going to be just outside the opening of our door frame here. So I'm going to move him forward to about there. So we are on frame 12, and I went ahead and moved him. Make sure you're on frame 12 first before you move your egg. Otherwise, when you go to do that, he's going to jump back. He's going to be at minus 179. Sure, that's good enough. Right click. Key selected. And then from here, I know that at this point, Eggy's going to start jumping to get to his stool. So what I can do to make sure that the momentum gets carried through is I'm going to drag Eggy all the way across to the stool and set the last keyframe here. I'm going to go all the way up my time slider to frame 240. I'm going to drag Eggy into his final resting position, which is going to be 172. For me, you guys might have a different resting position depending on your stage size. So I'm going to dial that in, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to just key that. So the only frame I have, or the only attribute I have animated on Eggy right now is just his translation Z, and I just have these 3 keys. So the door is going to open. After the door opens, he'll walk forward a little bit, and then he's going to run to the stool. So let's go ahead and play that. Bam. Door opens. So let's kind of get into position to see how that's going to look. Door opens, Eggy walks out. Bam. And now he's at this position, and we want him to start jumping. Let me go ahead and toggle my curtain off because it's kind of in my way. I can't see what I'm doing. Toggle the curtain. And it's okay to hide it. It's not going to hurt the animation at all. So he's out, and he's ready to start his jumping. We have his forward position. We know he's going to run forward and get to here. So that's fine because our forward momentum is going to be carried through, and we can always adjust it as we go. So from here, at frame 112, Eggy's sitting nice and pretty, and then he's going to jump and end up landing over a period of a second or so about here, and then he's going to jump again. He's going to go a little bit higher. It's going to take slightly more time. He's going to get to about here. Then he's going to jump one more and finish the arc right there. He's going to go a little bit higher and then finish the arc. So at 112 is where he's sitting. And we want the first jump to take about 1 second. So let's go back to our calculator. We're going to add 1 second to this, so plus 24. That's going to put us at 136. So at 136, Eggy is going to be here. Okay, so let's go ahead and adjust. That's going to go ahead and hit a key. So translation, and I will go ahead and key this in. I'm going to go back to frame 112, and I know that he's going to end up hitting his peak at about halfway through. So if he jumps from here and he lands here, that means that about halfway he's going to end up in the air. So halfway mark between from 112 to 120 or 136 should be about 124. And you can confirm that. You can just go and do 112 plus half our second, which is 12 frames, and that'll put you right at 124. Alright, so at 124 he's going to be up in the air. But before we can put him in the air, we want to make sure that he's already set to be on the ground because we haven't set up our Y translation yet. So I'm going to go to right here, 112, and I'm going to key my Y translation. So I'm going to right click. So our Y is going to start changing at 112. Up until then, it didn't have to change at all. But now our Y is going to change at 112. Alright, so 124, Eggy's going to be up in the air. We'll say 80 units. That's fine. It doesn't have to be precise. I'm going to right click, key selected, and I'm only keying my Y translation, okay, because my Z translation is already set. So he moves forward, he gets to here, he makes his first jump, he hits his peak, and then over here on frame 136, you see how he's still floating? Because here at 112, we said he's on the ground. At 130 or 124, we said he's in the air. At 136, we didn't tell him to be on the ground yet, so we're going to have to put him back on the ground. For me, my ground is 24 units. So I'm going to go ahead and put him back on the ground. I'm going to right click and key that. So now we'll have this arc. Bink. But I do want my arc to go a little bit more forward because he's not going forward enough for me. So I'm going to go to 136 and I'm going to just move my translation Z a little bit more forward because I want 3 jumps. I want 1 jump. I want to get about here, The third jump will take him about, or second jump will take him here, and the last one at the end. So at frame 136, let's go ahead and pull him forward to about there. Not too far. It's just a short jump. So that puts me at 160, or that puts me at minus 69. So I'm going to go ahead and right click, key selected. And all I'm selecting is my translation Z. So he'll go a little bit forward. One jump. Bam. From here, I'm going to have my second jump. So at 136, I know that my next jump is going to take a little bit longer. I'll say 1.5 seconds. So I'm at 136. And we know that 1 second is 24 frames, so half a second will be 12. So plus 36 frames. So that puts me at 172. So I'm going to move my time slider to 172. I'm going to go ahead and key my position. Now I do want my egg to be further along. So I'm going to pull him forward just a little bit more. To about there. I'm going to right click, key selected. And I'm also going to key that he's on the ground at this point. So I'm going to right click on my Y, key selected. So he'll still be on the ground. And then halfway between this, he's going to be in the air. And I'm going to eyeball it right around frame 154. He should be at the center point in the air. If you want to be precise, you can go and do the math, but eyeballing it, 154 looks correct. I'm going to pull that up in the air. Last time I was at 80, I want him to be higher, so I'm going to go to like 94 in the air. And I'm going to right click, key selected. So now I have this arc, bink, a little bit higher, he comes down. And if we run that, we can see him. He comes through, jump, jump, bam. Boing, 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 boing. All right. At 172, we're going to start our third and final jump. And we want it to go higher and then land on the stool. But we don't want the animation to end right at 240. We want there to be a second or two after he lands for the audience to give him an applause, for the lights to dim or whatever. So we're going to not have it. We're not going to have him end exactly at 240. We're going to have him end a couple seconds shy of that. So this next jump will probably last another second and a half. So I'm going to add 36 frames. So 36. So that's 24 plus 12. And it gives us 208. So at 172, he's here. He's on the ground. I'm going to go up to 208. So at 208, I want Eggy to be on the stool. So I'm going to move him to my stool's location. And that's going to be, let's see, what did I say, 172 for my egg. So that's going to be my Z. And then I want him to be on the stool. So for me, that was 61 units. You guys might be a little bit different. I'm going to right click and set my Y value as well. So now if I scrub back, you can see 72 is on the ground. At 208 he's on the stool, but he actually makes this like little airplane gliding motion, which doesn't work. We want him to jump. So I'm going to pick about the halfway point. I'm going to eyeball it. I'm going to say right around 189, 190. I'm going to pick 189. And I'm going to say at about this point he's going to be at the maximum height of his arc. He's going to be higher than he was before. So I'm going to put him up, say like 117. I'm going to make him go real high. So it'll be boing, boing, and then boing. So at 189, I'm putting him in on the Y translation, 117 units. right click, key selected, and I'm only selecting my Y because my Z is already set. So up and then down. And then we have a couple seconds for everything to kind of cool off. And if I play it, we have boing, 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 boing. If I come over here, you can kind of see boing, 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 boing. Now this is pretty rough animation, but in the next video, I'll show you how to do some advanced trickery to make this look more accurate. But for now, if we toggle our curtain on and we jump into our recording camera, so panels, perspective, my scene camera, and we go ahead and play this, we will see what the audience is going to see. All right. So go ahead and stop for save it here, and I will catch up with you on the next video on how to make this more precise. All right, I will see you next time.